Joan Maria de Silva by Alistair Stevenson of Tura Beach 2548. Narrated by Lex Marinos. I was 17 and I was returning home to Melbourne from a holiday in Scotland. Our family had migrated there 3 years before. I was travelling first class, courtesy of a wealthy uncle, on board the SS Orion. We were 3 days out from Tilbury and I was bored. I was on the sports deck, leaning on the rail, looking out to sea, when I heard the click, click, clack of a table tennis ball. Turning around, I was greeted by a young, Indian-looking girl bouncing the ball up and down on the table. "Do you play?" she asked. "I try," I replied, grinning at the thought of playing with this young thing. "Okay, let's try," she said. I was immediately interested. It was my first encounter with an Eastern girl, or any foreign girl for that matter. She had a lovely petite figure and was wearing blue pedal pushers and a light blue sweater. She wore her dark hair in a ponytail style. Her name, she said, was Joan. Joan Maria de Silva, to be exact, and she was from Sri Lanka. We played for over an hour, laughing at our silly shots and praising the good ones. I was so intrigued with her sing-song accent and her manner of speaking, for when she played a great shot, she would exclaim, "Saw it, Alistair." She was so easy to talk to. She explained that her maternal grandfather was born in Scotland and married a local girl. He owned a rubber plantation south of Colombo. We stayed with each other for the rest of the day and agreed to meet after dinner. Just after dinner, I was chatting away with my cabin mate, Arnold. He had my full attention until suddenly his attention was drawn elsewhere. I realized why when I heard the familiar sing-song voice behind me. "Were you not looking for me, Alistair?" I was momentarily stunned when I turned around. Surely this couldn't be the young girl I played table tennis with. Facing me was a stunning, raven-haired beauty dressed in a black and golden sari. I could hardly hear her voice as she introduced me to her parents, explaining to them how my accent resembled her grandfather's and what a good table tennis player Alistair is. I could hardly hide my embarrassment. Joan, it turned out, was 18, a year older than me. Soon, Joan and I were left to ourselves, and I became completely relaxed in her company. She explained the bits and pieces of her national dress as we walked around the outer deck, finally stopping at the stern rail. This became a ritual every evening after dinner, and, as I remember, the moon reflected off the ship's wake when we kissed for the first time. Joan was an accomplished pianist, and on several occasions she entertained in the ship's lounge in the quiet afternoons. I would just sit and listen, proud to be the boyfriend of this lovely young lady. The days passed slowly at first. After all, we had over 2 weeks before we reached Colombo. We often compared customs, our ways of life, our schooling, etc., adding to our interest in each other. We were very happy in each other's company. The last few days seemed to fly. We talked of writing to each other and of our future plans and careers. Joan's mother invited me to dinner the day we arrived in Colombo. The ship wasn't due to leave until midnight. Joan's young sister and a few relatives had also been invited. Well, there I was, the guest of honour, you might say. While the dinner was excellent and the dishes much different from anything I'd tried before, with spices and curries all new to my Scottish taste buds, I felt very much alone, being the only European at the table. Although she was at my side all evening, except when she rose to play the piano for the guests, I couldn't help but feel so sorry that all this was coming to an end. Perhaps Joan, in her first letter to me, explained it so well. "Well, how did you like your first acquaintance with an Eastern girl? Was I very different from what you expected? I will pop in and see you if I have the chance to visit your country. How did you enjoy your last visit to Sri Lanka? You were feeling a bit strange, weren't you? Did you think you were going to be kidnapped or something? because there are usually such strange stories associated with the East. She signed off her letter Bitzer, which was my nickname for her, referring to her ancestry. Bits of this and bits of that. Joan accompanied me to the tender, leaving her parents further up the quay, and as we kissed goodbye, I could still hear her tribute to me as she played in the front of all the guests the beautiful, sun-enchanted evening for the last time. As she reached the last line, "Once you have found her, never let her go," she looked at me, smiling, and I knew how much our relationship, only a few weeks old, meant to us. Sadly, I had to let her go. I was far too young to do anything else. The end.